Welcome to episode 14 of Box Turtle Bites. I'm Jason. He's TJ. TJ, what are we doing tonight?
Talk about GRC and AI, even though it's implied.
Yes, well, we got to call it out because, AI should be implied, but for some people, it's not. All right. Tonight, we have a special guest joining us tonight, the one, the only, AJ Yawn. Welcome, AJ. I feel like we can do this.
There we go. That's a nice welcome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good to be here with you.
So for those of you who don't know, AJ was the CEO of Bite Check, where both TJ and I worked with AJ for, that was about a year before, sad times. But we worked together a little bit after that as well. And now we're all kind of on our separate ways. But AJ, you've kind of owned the GRC space, at least in LinkedIn land. Like you're like the GRC master over there. So figured we'd bring you in and have you talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I get a little excited talking about GRC. So it'll be a good conversation, especially the current state of GRC.
Yeah. So you have a book out, right?
I do. Actually, it's right here.
Yep. I'll be honest, I haven't read it.
Sorry.
I'm terrible at reading books.
You know everything that's in there.
So for those who don't know, what is GRC?
Yeah, it's governance, risk, and compliance. The compliance gets all the attention, unfortunately, but I would argue that the R is the most important, and the reason why you do everything, it's all supposed to come back to risk, but we focus all on the compliance side, and then obviously there's the governance piece of like making sure that somebody tells us what to do, or what maybe we should do. And in from a work environment, you usually find these folks in security, find these folks maybe adjacent to security, and they can range from the quality of the type of person and the stuff they're doing. My book's about GRC engineering, specifically on AWS, which is really, if we go back to the Bite Check days, if you kind of think about what the core of Bite Check was, it was trying to engineer GRC, right? Like I was trying to figure out a way to get rid of screenshots and get real security value into these activities, because I do believe GRC is important, despite the noise that's around the field. I think it matters, but I think it's become compliance theater or security theater that we've lost that. And that was part of what we were trying to do at Bite Check, and still what I believe in. So I wanted to write a book that helps current GRC professionals level up. I kind of smiled because I was at a talk a few weeks ago talking about GRC engineering, and a bunch of security engineers and cloud security engineers came up to me afterwards and they were like, I think I do that GRC engineering thing you're talking about. And I was like, oh shit, what did I do? Did I just create like an interest because then I put my founder hat on. I'm like, it'd be a lot easier to teach some dude that knows AWS and Python SOC 2 than teach somebody that only knows SOC 2, AWS and Python. And I'm like, these dudes start showing up for some of the jobs I'm hiring for. I'm going to it's going to be like those dudes I can just like give a project and they can go run with it. And it's like, you'll learn the controls on the way. But so it's kind of having an unintentional effect right now. Like I'm exposing, I think, a big gap, but I also think it's a big opportunity for GRC professionals that are not scared of the command line and not scared of getting their hands dirty a little bit and just trying to get some more technical skills so they can have better relationships with engineers, with folks, and not waste people's time. So yeah, GRC is an important part. I say all the time, like if people want to be CISOs, like you should probably spend some time in GRC, because when you're at that level, you're going to be talking to the board, you're going to be talking to the CEO about GRC because that's the language that they're going to speak in. So if you can understand how to use it as a weapon in the right way, you can have a pretty solid career.
When you're talking to the board, are you more talking on the R side? Like I know compliance is what happens everywhere else, and like when we're talking like, I want to go work with somebody, it's like, oh, do you have your SOC 2 and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like when you're talking to the board, does it head more into the risks, or is it still very compliance?
I think it's only reactive. Talking about the R side, it's like if something happens or they see something in the news and it's like, are we good on that? But other than that, it's like, hey, we want to expand into this new industry. What do we have to do? And generally it's like, oh, you got to go get this compliance thing, or we can use our current compliance thing to expand. And it's just, how are we using those things to bring more revenue to grow the business? But as soon as something happens, then everybody cares about the R side, bring the CISO up in, and TJ knows what I mean when I say this, come stand on the carpet and get chewed out. by the board. But yeah, I think it's a problem in security in general. It's why we see so many like security tools out there that are just like BS, that people are just thinking about throwing tools or technology at things and not thinking about like what's the actual risk that we're trying to address. I was talking to somebody today about third-party risk management and how much of that is just like security theater. And it's like nobody's actually reducing security risk in whatever processes that we have going on. Nobody's actually
wait. Reading a 60-page document about AWS security is not reducing our risk. Son of a bitch.
And they're not even reading it.
Right. Well, at least today you can have it like summarized.
Right. At least if the report actually had some real details, it would be missed.
Right.
Because they're not even reading it. And it's like, and then there's like details like, oh yeah, this startup who's going to be storing all your PII does security awareness training. Like, thanks, man. But like, how are they, like, do they have like boundary protection? Like, are they actually doing something that's going to help me with what I care about?
Am I gonna hear about their S3 bucket being left wide open on the internet with all my PII on it next week?
Right.
Like,
but hey, they use no before, so
well,
good job.
Thanks.
To all the viewers, sorry, you cannot just forward to the end. This is live.
No,
so you can't pass this one with your security awareness training tricks.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of that, I started a new job recently, and they had some of that stuff, and you couldn't even like move your cursor to a different screen. It would stop the video. I'm like, oh, you're killing me. So I had to have two computers running at the same time. But still managed to get through that. Anyway.
I just did security awareness training when I came to this job earlier this year, and it was like entertaining. I forgot what the name of the company is. I wish I remembered so I could give them a shout out. But it was like a kind of like a sitcom. It was like a funny wood chop dude, like just country redneck type of dude, like that was doing it, and it was hilarious. Like he was out like with overalls, and it was like actually funny. I was like watching it. Like this is the first time I've ever watched security awareness training.
That's how you solve these problems, right? Because like everyone tries to do the same thing over and over again, and it is boring. I mean, let's be honest. Security is boring.
Yeah,
like it just is. So like you got to find ways to make it interesting.
I was talking to someone the other day, and I think you two are perfect people to talk to this about. But we were talking kind of about how like security folks get it wrong a lot by trying to like come in with tools to engineers, or just like come in and like apply a bunch of principles. But they forget that most good engineers like want to do they want to write secure code, like they want to do the right thing from a security perspective. So if you just like talk to them, like generally they would probably have a better idea of how to accomplish the goal than you coming in like, there's this new tool I need you to put in the CI/CD pipeline. And they're like, hey man, like I already do something for that. And then it turns into a whole thing. But like, I love to like just get your guys' thoughts on like, I think engineers don't get enough credit for like being able to handle security and then actually wanting to like do the right thing. But I think there's like a misconception in the security world, like, no, I got to force it on them. And it's like, I think you're just not talking to them.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that from my perspective. Like that's one of the first things that any of my platforms is top of mind. And I mean, any platform starts with auth. And so if you don't know security and auth, like you're in trouble. Like, and yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of us do put a lot of effort in to provide processes or tools within our pipelines already. And I think like what your point is, and where I've had the most success with like security and GRC folks is when it is that collaborative effort and we are talking about what we're protecting against.
Yeah.
But if it becomes but I need to check the checkbox, it degrades so quickly. It's like companies that are like, everyone needs to be on the VPN all the time. And you're like, wait, what? Like, why?
I have no resources that I need to access through the VPN. Why do I need to be there?
Right.
Yeah, I think like to even expand on that, I think when you have people who become gatekeepers of security and they feel like they need to control security, that's where you run into problems, right? Because like as you said, like developers, we want to do the right thing. We want our applications to be secure. The last thing you want as a developer is to come in one morning and realize the code you wrote has led to a big problem for the company. Like nobody wants that, right? So like the conversations are key, but at the same time, developers are like, we got to get things done. We have problems we're trying to solve from a business perspective, and we've got to push code out to do that. And everything you do that's just a block for me is just something that I'm going to find a way to work around. But if you work with me and we figure out how to make your needs from a security perspective meet my needs from a development perspective, we're going to get things done and we're going to be more secure. I think
exactly.
What was it like? It's like so many things in life. Like the more hindrance you put in the way, the more people are going to find a way to work around it. And like, so work together, and then you don't have that problem.
I think it's the early part too. Yeah. Like the GRC engineers and security folks that are willing to participate and give some of those insights up front, where I might not, I'll have a blind site, like a blind area that I didn't see, and they bring it up. Man, it's like, I really appreciate those conversations, because then I don't like get done and then all of a sudden, here's the red light, like stop and go, go to jail, don't collect $200. Like that, I think that it's just common sense. And to be fair, I'm sure that the business does that same thing to security, because all they focus on is compliance. Yeah. And so they feel like they're like, oh, I just get screwed on the red light, compliance, don't pass go, even though they're reducing risk. So like, I think we just all got to get better about collaboration and earlier in like the processes.
Well, I think GRC folks need to treat their GRC programs like products and not a one-time-a-year event. They should just be running sprints all throughout the year. And it could be a sprint on a policy. It could be a sprint on a control. It could be a sprint on just validating some evidence in the middle of the year. Like whatever it may be, just like do shit. Like don't just show up at the end of the year, because then you can figure out better ways to work with people. Like you're just showing up at the end. You have no clue what tools they're using. You have no clue what's changed from the last year. And then it becomes this whole sprint. It's because and I honestly, like, I always wonder, like, and one day I'm going to go get one of these jobs to find out, the internal GRC job, like what are they doing all year? Like, I used to always wonder this when I would show up as the audit, like, hey man, like, how are you guys not ready? I was here last year at the same time. I came to the same exact week. I came to the same hotel. I ate the same breakfast. I'm wearing the same fucking Lululemon pants. What have you guys done for the past year that now it's like, oh yeah, let me go talk to that engineer? It's like, how do you still, like, okay, last year you were new, but how do you still not know what they're doing? Like what's going, and I mean, maybe it's just like, hey, they do the audit and then they just like fuck off for 9 months. And it's like, that sounds great. Like maybe it's a great job, but it feels like it's just such low hanging fruit to just go have conversations. Like just go talk to people. And I think a lot of times they're scared to go talk to people because they don't know what they're talking about. So they're like, oh, I'm scared I'm not technical enough. And it's like, these people aren't like assholes. Like you can just go have a conversation. I mean, yes, like there are some assholes. Right. Yeah. Like, and I mean,
people have said that of me at times. So,
Yeah. I mean, I get called an asshole a lot, but it's it is what it is. But like you can get, you can get information from them as long as you come with like some level of curiosity, some level of humility, some level of like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do want to figure out ways to save you time and to make my life easier. Like, and everybody wants that. Like nobody's like you work for the same company. You're all getting paid by the same people. So like you do all want that to continue.
How do you balance that? Like, so, as an engineer, like there are pressures on them to get things done all the time.
Yep.
I got some guy coming into me and saying, hey, talk to me about this stuff. I'm like, I got stuff to get done, man. Like, I think for me, what I would want to hear as a developer is, how is this conversation with you going to help me?
Yep. Yeah, actually, in chapter 9 of the book, I do this like case study, which is based on like a real situation, but I had to like sanitize it. But I talk a lot about the time that you could kind of multiply out a number of developers spending on an audit and like what that costs, both in the terms of the developers context switching and how much time they actually lost just based off of the meetings, but then money, like engineers are expensive. So like you just multiply how much they are, like it's a ton of money. And I think if you, as a GRC person, if I came to you like, hey man, like I know last year the audit absolutely sucked. You had to sit down with those guys from EY that like wasted your time and asked the like worst fucking questions possible. I heard last year that you use GitHub Actions for some of our stuff. Like I've done some research and I'm wondering if this is a potential thing that could help us save you some time. And I kind of talk about like, it's one of those things where there is a commitment that's going to be needed on both ends. Like you're not going to get this for free, right? Like you're going to, the engineer's going to have to do something. They're going to have to sacrifice the time. But if we do it right, you potentially have the engineer can go about their life and not even know the SOC 2 is going on. Like it's just a part of it. And in there, we like talk about this scenario where and actually it was on GitLab in their pipeline, not GitHub Actions, but using their runners, kind of the same concept. We wrote a Python script that goes in and takes all of the artifacts from the SaaS, DAS, container scans, et cetera, converts it to ASFF and sends it to AWS, into Security Hub and an Audit Manager. And that's a part of like this reference pipeline that goes across the entire organization and like everybody's stuff. Like, so it's like now I have combined all the infrastructure checks on AWS with application checks. And like, if something goes off, I'll know about it way before the auditors come. And then when the auditors show up, there's evidence in Audit Manager of this thing. And it's like, and I think the key here, this is the key part. I, as the GRC professional, at the end of this conversation, I tell you, I'm going to work my ass off before this next audit to learn all of this so I don't have to come and ask you stupid questions. If I have to bother you, it's going to be for something I really don't know how to answer. But for the most part, I'm going to be able to answer all of the auditor's dumb questions versus having to basically, and I part of the reason why I think this GRC engineering thing has to happen is because current day GRC professionals are just middleware. They're just passing information back and forth. It's auditor asks a question, they're like, I have no clue. Hey, Jason, what's this? And you're like, oh, here we go. You send it to them, then they literally just forward the shit off to this person. And it's like, well, like, that could probably be an agent.
I was gonna say, like this feels very much like an agent, right?
And it's like hey man,
and not even a very complicated one.
My favorite one is when the middle person just sits on the Zoom call with you and you answer all the questions as the engineer. And it's like, what is going on here?
Why is this GRC person
they
here?
Introduce you, go on mute, go off camera, and it's just you and the auditor.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, like I probably and like I say this all the time, like right now there's spotlight on all these other departments because of AI. That spotlight's coming to security. Like people think like, oh, security's safe. And like, I get it. Like there's a lot going on that we're going to need security professionals. But at some point you're going to be able to look at security and say, with this technology, I can do more with less. Every CEO, every board member is thinking about how do I increase margins? The margins of 5 years ago don't matter today. So when that spotlight comes on security, if you're in GRC, do you feel safe? Like I wouldn't. If I'm not, especially if I'm not technical, especially if I have no way that I've actually improved things versus just collecting evidence, because that's going to be automated. That's not going to be a thing that people have to do, and it shouldn't be a thing people have to do today. So like if you get ahead of it and you start to use some of these concepts and use some of these tools and use some of these things, then you can like, and you're going to like this, both of you are going to like this because I learned this from you guys, just like working with you guys for as long as I did. Just like there's a whole chapter in the book about event-driven architecture for GRC professionals and like leveraging Lambda, leveraging like all these serverless things. And it's like, why are we doing manual access reviews? Like just trigger a Lambda function that can go off. Like I wrote this, like this open source tool is like a lab that takes findings from Security Hub, config, access analyzer, checks even random shit in CloudTrail that has to relate with IAM, puts it all together and then feeds it to Bedrock and sends a report on a monthly basis. Like, hey, like here's your access review, has an Excel sheet that has some shit in it. It's like that right there, one, is way better than the manual thing you would do. Because I've seen manual access reviews, they just check for IAM users and IAM roles. And it's like, hey man, there's permissions associated with that. like the list doesn't actually give you any information. And then like, there's also these thing called like machines on the cloud that talk to each other that like, you need to check those permissions too, because I don't care if Sally has access to the account with no permissions. I do care if this random EC2 instance in a region we don't live in is talking to our S3 bucket that has all of our data. I care
Wait
about
till that includes AI agents.
Right.
Like, and not just an AI agents that you know about, because you think about SaaS for all. What's going to happen when we have all these citizen developers building random shit that's connecting to things that you have no clue about? And now it's like, I think identity and access management is the biggest gap in compliance. Like no auditor gets it right because they don't know how and they don't understand how IAM works at scale. Right, because it's huge and it's a mess. So there's no way you can do it manually. Like that's one area where I guaranteed you have gaps if you are not automating.
Yeah, I mean, in AWS world, and obviously it's like where I know things the most, but it's a good foundation to look at. Like you think about your access. Obviously, you got your user access, right? That one's easy to understand. And you can go look at what the policies they have and whatever. And you can use Access Analyzer, and that's great. It does a lot for you. you go beyond that into roles, right? And roles are interesting because they can be assumed by things. And so now you have to understand who all can assume this role. That's bad enough, right? That's another level. But then the big kicker is resource policies. Like they're all over the place. So like,
and session policies on top of that.
Yes, right. Like, so like things just, session policies, but at least session policies scope down and not up, right? So like you can assume that they can do no more than what the other policy is, but it's, I mean, we did a thing on this early, on one of the early episodes, we had AI like try to figure out like who all can access this account, because realistically, just understanding that, you have to look at so many different things, and it's not something that a person can do. And that's not even getting into the multi-regional element of it, right? Like all over the globe.
And then just even
seeing
cross-account access, that's another one that just gets really nasty in organizations once they start getting really big, and it's like, why? Wait a second. Why does that have access there?
Yeah.
And then you think about CloudTrail too. CloudTrail's going to tell me when some weird stuff goes on. Why did so-and-so create an access key? That, like, it's like, hold on, let me go check with that access key. Like, it's just like little things like that you're not going to catch by doing this stuff manually and just asking for lists. Like, you're going to have to use, this is why some of the, like, I'm a big believer, and the book talks all about AWS native services, again, like a lot of our history, but because like the data's there, like you don't need to like come out and like try to figure some stuff out. Like, just use all of the information though. Like right now, it's really focused. So I think like that's like a big weakness. And I see this GRC engineering thing as like there's a window, like there's an opportunity. There's like a 2 to 3 year window where like GRC professionals can level up technically, can really become like the GRC. I talked to some dudes who have like got this job, and they're just like innovating all day. Like it's part of like my job. Like I'm just in AWS or writing Python all day. It's amazing. Like I wish you guys would have told me this is what it was like to be on the engineering side, because this is amazing. Like I didn't know this was what life was like. This is really cool.
To be fair, it was a little bit more work before AI was doing all the coding for you. So
just wait. More people are going to pile on. You're going to build a table, and they're going to ask you why you didn't build a chair.
Yep.
But yeah, it's I think there's a window, but then after, I think that window's closing, and then I also think the security engineers, the more technical people that are in this field, are going to see opportunities. I mean, like Anthropic was hiring the other day for like a senior risk analysis, and it was like $325 annually, and it was remote. And I'm like, and most of the job description was technical. It was like, and it was at an analyst level. And I'm like, hey guys, like there's consolidation is happening in all of these fields. Like they're bringing roles together. Because I saw somebody the other day post, they're like, I've been applying for roles, and everybody's talking about, I got passed over because I need more technical skills. And they're talking about CI/CD pipelines and this stuff. And they're like, I have no clue about any of that. And I'm like,
you better.
Gonna be rough. Like you're gonna like, because you're middleware right now. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to like talk down on people's career, but if you're just passing information, that if your reality today is not actually doing any critical thinking or human interaction that matters, I'm sorry. These things are real. AI is real. It's like, I know there's a lot of doubters out there, but this stuff is real.
Yeah, like you even some small degree of critical thinking. I mean, look at what Microsoft and Amazon have done, cutting out middle management. It's the same sort of thing, right? It's like, you guys, the value you're adding to me is to deal with people, which is great, but I can have one person deal with a lot of people when I have AI in the mix, and the rest of what you're doing just isn't that important to me, and so I can just cut you out. I think people need to start realizing that anything that they can do likely has an element where AI can do it probably better, cheaper. And so you got to find 100%. Out what it is that how are you going to leverage AI to bring your skills up? That's that's the kicker to me.
Right. That's what the companies are going to look for. I saw, just speaking of Microsoft real quick, they laid off all that middle management. And then there was like an internal document that came out today about all the stuff they're going to try to do to recruit AI engineers from Meta. Yeah. And Satya's talking about how headcount's going to stay flat. They laid off 7,000 people. Yeah. And headcount's going to stay flat, and they're hiring heavily in the AI engineering space. And it's like, hey, if you're being looked at, you might want to have, as a talent, how to leverage these tools. Like, not even just like on some, like, I think maybe 6-7 months ago, maybe a year ago, it was like, oh, I'm aware. I'm aware of these tools. No, don't be aware. Like, you better know, like, and you don't have to be like, the guys that are getting $1 million offers from Meta. Like, that's not what I'm saying, but it's like, you better like not be in the dark on this stuff, because you're at super average. Sorry, go ahead, TJ.
Well, I was just going to say, like, to bring it out of the doom and gloom, it's the best time ever
Yeah,
to go make that transition with
sure.
the tools of AI, like,
Yep.
because it's a great learning tool too.
Yep.
But
that's what people sleep on, how fast you can learn things with these tools.
And I think the other piece of it is you kind of have almost a unique opportunity to do production level type AI applications in these companies as a GRC engineer.
Sure.
That once that gets on your resume and people see that your stuff is driving real return on investment.
Yep.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't ever stop getting pinged now that people have realized the people that can take these AI tools, put them into flows that actually have a return on investment in time. It never stops pinging. Because that's what is in huge demand, to your point, from Meta and Microsoft. And so, like, you have such an opportunity right now because GRC isn't under the microscope of, like, use the AI now, that you can have that time to teach and learn and experience those AI tools. And gosh, man, if you all of a sudden productionize some, like, user management review, like you said, using AI, some Python and some serverless, you show this time savings for the engineer, the real time, like, auditability of your user management in the cloud. You're an all-star on that recruitment block.
And you're good, right? And, like, I can go, I preach a lot about GRC engineers who start building portfolios, like how software engineers and UI UX designers have. Like, a guy shows up to me with a GitHub and some projects, I am, like, going to run to go interview that dude. Like, I don't care about the dude with the resume of all this experience and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I need to see that you can do stuff, like, and I can just trust you to go off and, like, figure some stuff out. But I agree with you, TJ. Like, one, like, I tell people, like, feels like the greatest time to be, like, in technology and, like, greatest time to be alive. Like, I love being a benefit of the AI wars and all the models fighting and giving away stuff for free and trying to produce more. Like, Claude just gave us a million context window on Sonnet 4. Like, I'm like, hey, man, you guys keep going at it because I'm going to be the benefit of it. But it's an awesome time. I agree with you too. Like, people need to just embrace this stuff and go after it, man. Like, I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I studied engineering back in college and I didn't like it. And I did a little bit with Python 5-6 years ago. I didn't like it. I said, hey, well, give it a shot again. Like, just try again. Like, it's like,
man, it is so different.
Yeah, because the thing, I was just talking to a buddy, I got him set up on Windsurf and he's been using it. And he was like, I love this so much. He's like, I've learned more about Python in the last 3 weeks than I did in the last 5 years. He was like, and I was like, why do you think that is? He was like, because I get to ask them questions. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. Like, people now feel free by themselves. They're not with it. And then, like, how all of us learn things, like, we were just watching YouTube and then going and doing it, not working, going to Stack Overflow, going back to you. And, like, there was nobody to ask the dumb questions. Like, but now you can ask the dumbest question, like, I don't get it. Explain it to me like a fifth grader, and it will do it. And, like, that freedom to just ask questions repeatedly and have it, it's like, I tell people, like, it's an opportunity. It's a challenge, right? Like, but it's an opportunity. And to your point, TJ, I think there's an opportunity for people to build, like, not talk about it, go build something internally. That automated access review is one control, but you would be the bar is pretty low. You would be a superstar if you just did that huge, like a huge super bar. Or even, like, in the book, like, I talk about the case study is like a SOC 2 case study, and I think I lay out all these infrastructure checks using Security Hub config, feed them into Audit Manager. We got the GitLab integration, and it's like 37 out of the 50 or so controls for security, availability, confidentiality are getting evidence collected on a daily basis in folders, timestamped, and with, like, validated JSON that can't be modified. And it's like, if you just show up and say, hey, I'm going to create a self-documenting cloud that is going to run and it's going to cost me about $5 a month or whatever, like, it's not going to be expensive. And then we also have a Lambda function that generates, it's funny, you guys are going to laugh at this, because we did all this automation. You do all this automation work, and then you get with an assessor and they're like, but Excel, I need it in Excel. What about, I don't understand, what is this JSON thing? It's like, it's English. JSON, you can read. Don't be scared by the curly brackets. Just read it. So we created this Lambda function, and I named my Lambda Auditor-Friendly Report. Because we had to create this, and I did, like, special color coding. I colored the non-compliance red. But the Lambda runs on a weekly basis, sends an email. We send an email to ourselves, and then we fire it off to them. And it's like, we could probably do that manually, but why? Like, let's just collect that. And then we're trying to do this. We're doing stuff across, like, 120 plus accounts. It's like, that doesn't make sense to do things manually. But yeah, it's like to me, it's very low hanging fruit. There's a huge opportunity if you're a GRC professional and you're just like, I'm gonna take the challenge. I'm gonna go after this because you can really carve out a path. I feel like this is like being an early cloud security engineer in the early days of AWS. It's like nobody really knows what you're supposed to do. So just like start doing shit, and then it's gonna be like, oh shit, that actually, I didn't know you could do that.
Well, I think you touched on something too. Like a lot of people are still stuck in the old SaaS mindset of a big UI platform and dashboards and all this shit. Your Lambda probably provides just as much value, if not more, because it's in the flow of work. It's going to the person that like wants it that way, but it's producing a huge amount of value for real cheap. Because like I can't imagine that Lambda took very long to well,
it did not.
Claude probably didn't have any problems making that.
It's very simple. Very simple.
But that like don't fight it and think that you got to build like this huge platform or put all this UI and all this stuff. I've got news for people. Agentic and multi-agent orchestration removes the UIs were there because we needed people to interact with it. I don't need people to interact with it anymore. So all I need is the outputs. And why fight the output battle or force them onto a platform when you can give it to them in whatever their preferred format is?
Exactly.
Yeah, even when you talk about human in the loop stuff, I think you're going to start seeing human in the loop is going to be meeting people where they are to be in the loop, right? And if that's an email or a Slack or Teams message or whatever it is, get that to them and have them respond to it right there. And I don't need to open up another UI for it.
Make your edits and respond
behind the scenes, right? It's not. It has nothing to do with like I need to drag this file here, and that doesn't exist anymore. And I think that's also, like, to your point, too, that's an advantage. Like, you don't have to worry about trying to figure out a way to make something pretty. Like, just make it work.
Sorry, Kenny.
Right, I know. Like, sorry. Like, and I would say, like, if you needed to make something pretty, front end stuff on these tools is super easy. Like, it'll figure out some stuff. Like, you don't have to try that hard.
Dynamic UI generation is coming. You watch. Well, people won't write it.
That's where the thing, I think, if you're in this field right now, you should be trying to use some of these tools because this is the worst they're ever going to be. Like, it's going to get a lot easier, which then it's going to turn into, it was cool that you built this, to it's expected that there's citizen developers building things, and HR has built this thing. And it's like, it's going to turn, like you said, the SaaS world is at risk right now. like because as soon it's going to be like, why does it make sense to spend? Especially if I don't think people realize how much money some of these large enterprises spend on SaaS, but it's significant. We're talking spending 7 figures, right? Yeah. It's like, does it make still sense to spend 7 figures when Sally can now use this dynamic tool that generates a pretty UI and then can, let's say 10 years from now, can just talk to this thing and it builds a Workday fucking clone for them internally. And it's like, now you just have your internal development teams that are really doing the real building versus spending millions of dollars, like significant amount of money. And I think
it's going to be dynamic UI, like connected into dynamic persistence into the LLM. Like they aren't going to build it in the traditional sense. No, they won't. It's going to be a literal on the fly visual representation with hooks back into data layers. Like it's just the reality, right? Like it's going to be efficiency, not everything in SaaS was built around user entry. It was processes that we had to guide a person to do the data entry and move the workflow across. And that doesn't exist anymore in this multi-agent world. But I think one of the other points that I wanted to bring up for like getting into the GRC engineering space is if you're working in the AWS or the cloud that you're on, you're going to have a greater appreciation and an understanding of what you're looking for, because you're going to have to understand IAM to get a Lambda to run, and you're going to have to understand how this stuff gets deployed. And so you're like almost getting two sides of education at once for 100%.
100%. I even tell some of my buddies who are like getting into this, trying to figure it out. I'm like, hey, like you got kids, like go spin up Windsurf or Cursor and try to build something for your kids on AWS. Just like go read some blogs, because you're going to learn some things. You're going to learn some things you didn't know. And it's like,
your kids could learn something.
Necessarily right. It's not necessarily security related, but you're learning about AWS. And I think the only way to truly learn about these cloud providers or anything in technology is by doing. You have to get your hands dirty. And there's been too many GRC professionals who are watching from the outside. And they're just like, yeah, that looks cool, but I don't have to do that. I talked to somebody the other day. They were like, I'm proud to be a non-technical GRC engineer or GRC person.
Yeah, you won't be proud long.
I wouldn't say that too many more times.
Right. So I want to back up a little bit because interesting thought kind of went through my head as we talk about like people, the HR department's going to build their own things or whatever. And I had a flashback when you said that to all these people that over the years were building everything in freaking Excel.
Like, I thought you were going to talk about WordPress, but okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, that too, but no, but like literally business processes. I worked at a place. This was a publicly traded company that I worked at for a period of time that had a whole bunch of things that were actually part of their process from a financial perspective, built into Excel and these massive spreadsheets that did all these things that grew over time. Right. Yeah. So it's not like they started there. It was small to start with, just a spreadsheet, did some small calculations. It was great. And then eventually turned into this big thing. And eventually, as engineers, we had to pull that apart and build something that, was a little bit more stable, secure, and all that. Is that going to happen again?
I don't think so, because I think you guys are going to keep it from happening, because those tools are not going to get in the hands of HR until they're used by engineers at scale. And with guardrails. And then it's like these people are building within a sandbox, essentially. Like they're just building within, and you can see it, you can know what's going on. But I think they're going to be able to, I think what I'm talking about is like Sally in HR is going to be able to describe a problem she has, and the ability for software to be built to solve that problem has like dramatically shortened and won't require 7-figure investment in X. And I think there's going to have to be, I don't know who's going to do it. Like I saw the other day, Shopify, right? Shopify, the CEO said, or was it Shopify or Spotify? One of those guys, the CEO says like, they no longer have like PRDs or any of that. Like their PMs, their designers have to build prototypes. They have to go out and buy code and build prototypes and have to bring code in order to get something that they want done, they have to bring code and a working thing. And I think like, that's the start of like, and they have guardrails around it, right? Like they have like enterprise licenses for Cursor, and they're like doing certain things where it's like they have Cursor rules and they have like a bunch of IAC stuff in there. So I think there's going to be ways that you can empower the non-technical folks without it turning into slop that you have to go clean up. But I think what it hopefully does is, and we've all experienced this with good and bad PMs and designers, like they can get a lot wrong trying to describe the problem they're trying to solve. And oftentimes it's not a problem. And it's just something they heard and they think it's a problem. So now forcing them to go through and actually try to figure out how to build something around this. And that's what the guy was talking about. Damn, I think it's Shopify, the CEO, but he was talking about it. And he was like, our quality of what we build has now gone up because we're getting less dumb ideas because they're forced to validate it a lot faster. And I think but again, like they've done that. And it's contained in engineering, right? Because it's product and design folks. It's not going outside of that yet. But then I think like the natural evolution is what like IT, maybe like, that type of folks doing some more. But I think if you have, again, these tools are just going to get better. So like right now, I don't know how great these tools are at the enterprise level. I just read about it. I don't know anybody personally that's using them at the enterprise level from like a command and control perspective of like what you can and can't do. I don't know. I think you can do some Cursor rules like across.
I actually do. I've seen it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they basically just hook it up to, they put the guardrails they put in places, they hook it up basically to the UI repo, and they set them up on a Claude code or whatever, and they have prompts that are basically describing what it is and how to mock data behind it. And so then they can basically describe their feature, and it will do iterations and it runs locally for them. Yep. And so like what it really is doing is it's reducing that communication gap, right? Because you're taking a non-technical person and giving the technical person almost a blueprint of like, because I cannot tell you how many times I'm like, well, where do you want the button? And like, what do you want the modal to look like?
Right.
And
like little stuff like that. That's just like, they didn't think about it. They're just like, I need something, and then it's just like, and then they like put this design together, and it's like that also doesn't make sense. Like I'm
or it covers like 1/4 of the need that we need to figure out.
Right,
it's just like the button. What happens when you click it?
To go and actually have to click the button, it opens up, and then you have to think about what data goes in there, and then what happens after that step. Like that forces these people that are just handing over things to engineers, expecting magic to happen, to go through a more thought process. And I think before we get to this world of true citizen developers where anybody's building software, quote unquote, there's a significant amount of adoption in the company from an engineering perspective, like actual engine, like it's not going to be at a company that is like banning AI tools. Like it's gonna be a company that's like fully using Claude Code, right? Like everybody's locked in. They have like a bunch of like just sub agents. Like they're going for it, right? And I think like eventually though, it's gonna be a bunch of people playing catch up. Because like after the Shopify, I think the Shopify, whoever it was, he came up with that memo that said like, in order to hire someone, you have to justify why AI can't do this. They laid off a bunch of people, and then like immediately like 3 other CEOs, you guys know how it is, like CEOs just copycat, 3 other CEOs came up with like the same memo. It's gonna be the same thing. Like once somebody says like, hey man, we did this and here's how we did it, like copycat rolls, and then people are just gonna figure out how to do it better. But I do think the world that we're getting, especially, I think people don't realize that don't use these coding tools, how like where we're headed. Like I think it's very easy for us to talk about like the agent world and like all this stuff because we're seeing it and seeing the power of these things on a daily basis. But if you're not, it's like, oh, whatever, these guys are talking science fiction. And like it's like her back again, but hers coming true. Right. People are upset about you know, losing their companions.
I think also
like, it's real, man. It's real. These things are good, and like it's only going to get better.
I think the software of what we think of, like when you like phrase that question, or what an HR person might ask or to build, I think like that's going to look very different in 5 to 10 years, because you got to remember, like, I mean, there's a lot of these places that, you know, level 1, level 2 type of work. It's usually data entry and it's usually like analysis, grunt work. The agents are going to take that over. And like there are a lot of tools, and tools the way that we think about it, or that an HR person might want to make, that in the world of the agents isn't going to exist. And just to circle it back to the GRC, if you're not getting the technical chops to understand this stuff, there aren't going to be screenshots.
Right.
Like there's not going to be something to screenshot in the future. Like there are going to be a mass amount of agents communicating back and forth, and you're going to have to get in there and get the actual information and the risk and compliance stuff in real time from these agents. And like, if you don't start getting those technical chops, you're going to be looking to hit the screenshot button being like, there's nothing to screenshot.
And right now you get away with it saying, hey, that's cool, that JSON or that file you have over there, can I get a screenshot? Like there's not, like you said, there's not going to be a screenshot in the future. So like you're not going to get away with it. I think the biggest GRC, like there's a bunch of roles in GRC. The biggest one to me, that's going to be the first one replaced by agents, is TPRM, the third party risk management. The guy or girl that's just reviewing SOC 2 reports and going through that process. Companies are going to talk to companies with agents. They're going to say, hey, I want to work with this company. I want to work with this company, share data, check it off, pass the check, and they're going to be done. There's truly like that to me is like the questionnaire industry, like all of that shit is.
You can do that right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like
literally, put your SOC 2, put all of your like stuff into a knowledge base, and then expose a endpoint for fucking questions.
Yeah, I just created this thing with the new S3 vector store that they have, and literally did that. Just put a bunch of stuff in there, and then just created a little UI to ask questions. And it's like just as keyword semantic search, and it's like it's pretty good. Like it just gets it, and it's like. And that's like very rudimentary, but it's like,
but it's not the problem.
That to me, like, if you're just a person that's on this side sending the SOC 2 report,
right,
and then this one's reading it, and then they're coming back and saying good, and then you're putting good in the system, you are at risk.
Right, highly. I think one other thing that I think about, you know, back to my question about, you know, are we going to run into that again with kind of the Excel stuff? Is there's a big difference between that and where we are today, in that there's not a lot you can screw up, right? Like if you go and build some process with some AI tool and it's doing a bunch of stuff for you. Well, if you did a bunch of stuff in Excel, like, okay, I got to figure out how to reproduce that. I don't really have to. Like if it's working for you, I can get the data out of it because an agent can talk to it and get whatever it needs to from it, because it is what it is. And so if it's solving the problem, because I don't have to interact with it the way we used to have to, where I needed it to be in a database that I could query in certain ways to get the data in the way that I needed to do my things. That's not true anymore. So like the fear of getting back to that, like people producing things. Okay, go for it. Have at it.
Right.
Because if I need that for some other thing, then I'll just be like, okay, I just need you to expose that now so that my other agent can talk to it.
Exactly. Cool that you did that. Now, just give me the data. Yeah. It's I think it's like there's so many functions in GRC, like especially now that I'm working on this side and back in kind of the federal space and seeing the amounts of roles and people dedicated to things like writing policies, people dedicated to things like just writing control statements. Like
how is that a thing anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how is that a thing today? Like, that's what we're saying. Like, I think people don't realize this. In like 3-4 years from now, when things start happening, people are like, "Oh my God, this is so shocking!" And we're gonna be like, "Go back to episode 14,"
right?
And we're gonna be like, "We talked about this. Like, we knew this was, but like, we're so close to it. So like, it's easy for us. I think it's easy for us to see it. But it's like, man, like, there's a lot in GRC that is not going to exist. Like, there's just not going to be a reason for that role to exist anymore. If you even think about the concept of a policy, like that to me is like very archaic. Why do I have to write down in a paper like what I'm supposed to do when I can just like see it in configurations, have agents verify, and like we're not going off of it? And like that's my policy. My policy is what actually is happening, not some random thing that a guy wrote and then signed and put in Google Drive for a year.
There you go. Real-time policy generation agent.
Yeah.
That's looking at what your current like footprint looks like across all of that data. And they on demand, you can create the policy. And then it's an actual fucking real representation of what you did. And you don't have to check
CPRM, it. You think about CPRM, right? Like it's like, okay, agent, just give me your current real-time policy on your infrastructure or network security or access management. And then it produces it, agent reads it, and it's like, this does not meet our standards, right?
I would step back away from it a little bit. I agree with where you're going with that. I would say that's not so much a policy, that's more of a reality of what's going on, which is what you want.
Right. You're supposed to have implemented your policy.
No, I agree. But I think you need to tell the agent what you want to implement, right? Because the agents are going to go out and presumably be building these things. So you do need to have something that says this is what we should do. This is our best practice. Yeah. And then we also need something that says this is what we are doing. And that goes back to some of the stuff you were saying earlier about kind of like, you know, you're doing weekly reports, daily reporting, all this stuff. Like, to me, that becomes real-time reporting on everything. And that's where that's where we need to be. And that brings us back then where it's no longer the C, it is the R. Because now I'm able to say in real time, something bad happened, or we are potentially going to have something bad happen because this thing happened, rather than, as we all know, a SOC 2 report that's 2 years old by the time you get it, right? And it's like, okay, well, what's happened between the time when this SOC 2 report was written to the time I got it? And, you know, like, that's 2 years now. This system is not what it was then. So, like,
and you better pray that the sample... That the sample over the 6-month period, like included the key points.
Yeah, it included the one guy that hadn't signed his.
That's the thing is like, oh, this guy just keeps refusing to sign his employee handbook. He's just like so difficult, right? Like he won't sign it, and it's like, why is that coming up in such a big thing when like there's much bigger issues that probably we should be thinking about from a risk perspective? And I think it's like it goes to real-time deviations, real-time diffs from the standard. It's like, oh, we were supposed to do this. And then on a Wednesday, I find out TJ just went and stood up X, Y, and Z. But instead, before we start like running off and screaming and like, oh, this is a problem, it's like, let's go find out what's going on.
Right.
Let's go talk to that person, because maybe we need to adjust our policies, because policies are not reflective of reality. We just had a customer that said all of our data needs to be in the EU region. So that's why he just spun up that thing over there. That's why he disabled that SCP, right? And it's like, that's not a control failure. That's the reality of now we need to update our policies. And I remember that used to happen to me all the time as an auditor. I would get there, the auditor is like, well, the policy says this. I'm like, great, man, I read that on the plane over here. Engineer comes in, I talk to the engineer, and they're like, oh yeah, we stopped doing that 6 months ago. We bought this tool, it's really cool, it does all that for us. Now we don't. And I just look at the GRC pictures, I'm like, hey man, this thing was signed 6 months ago. Like,
well, I think that
go ahead.
I was gonna just say, like, it's also interesting because like it's almost like the engagement froze engineering.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, the system description. Well, that system description is only as good as that day, that moment.
Right.
And most likely, if you collect it in the morning, it's going to be wrong by the afternoon.
But that's one of the things I think is so hilarious about this is like the SOC 2 was, I mean, it's not really that old, right? Like as a compliance framework. And yet it was written as though software was still doing waterfall. Right? Like we ship something in a box, and at that point in time, we wrap it up, and here's the point in time, and boom, and everything after that doesn't matter. I'm like, no, literally,
and change advisory boards.
Yeah, like literally, as you're writing this SOC 2 report and signing, like while you're writing your signature, we just pushed four different things to production. So like
that's why like auditors asking if an auditor comes across this, stop asking for a list of changes. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fucking make sense.
No.
They're shipping all day.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense. You're not asked. That's the worst question you could come in and ask, because what you're asking for is security theater. You're asking for like, let me get some tickets out of Jira.
Yeah.
I can create Jira tickets.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean I follow the process.
Right.
I just created a ticket for you, Mr. Auditor.
Yep.
That doesn't actually mean anything. So stop asking for the list from Jira so you can sample. Like, does it make sense? Like you just said, Jason, like they're shipping all day.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it's done anymore. Like that's not how it's been done for a very long time.
Right.
But it's just,
what do you mean you don't have an off-site secret place for your backup DB tapes?
What do you mean it just deploys? How does that work? What is this? What is CI/CD? Explain that to me.
I think though, like if you do, like, to speak more to the GRC engineer, like if it really does take off, it really does solve a lot of those problems. Like, they're gonna get more hands-on. They're gonna see what like real cloud development looks like, how fast it's moving, and like maybe we can shift it like the whole thing where it's not just this like, no, we don't have an architectural review board for every piece of infrastructure that goes in the cloud, and like, you know, and fine, like heavily regulated industries, I get it. Like, you know, there's certain.
But even these dudes, I didn't know it, but these dudes are shipping too, man. Like these dudes are.
I believe it.
These dudes are out here like working very similar to like on the software side. Like they're out here developing. Like they're actually doing really cool shit, and it's like. Even FedRAMP is like very archaic for how modern shit is going on. Like it doesn't like it just we're not asking the right questions.
And it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Is like if you have something in place that is stopping you from doing it the way that your policy says to do, then people are just going to work around the policy. They're not going to comply to the policy. They're going to work around it, and then you have less secure things. Like let's get to where we're aligned, and then we can build things securely.
That's one thing, Tito, to your point about the GRC engineering movement kind of solving things. One thing that I'm seeing now is that like the security teams, kind of like think about like really central, large or enterprise security teams, they're very grateful to us because the product teams have to like they really need these authority to operate, continuous authority to operate things in the gov space, but they've been ignoring the security teams for so long. They've just been like, yeah, fuck off guys, we're not going to do any of that. Like security hub, dashboard, whatever, we're not looking at that thing. Like, but now because we've come in and made it easier for the product teams to do stuff with the data and get a report that says, hey, just fix these things and you're good. Both people are happy. The product teams are like, hell yeah, finally. Somebody's translated this BS that they're asking me to do. And then security teams are like, finally, they're listening to us. So I think like the GRC engineers potentially can solve a lot, like more than just GRC problems, which is like the point of GRC, like it's more than C problems, I guess. Like you're getting back to GNR, right? Like you're actually helping security improve things. You're actually helping your product teams actually build and do it in a secure manner. And then you're elevating the data to the assessors. So it's like everybody wins. And it really, I think, requires this hybrid professional. Like you have to be able to understand the controls. You have to be able to get into the technical weeds, and like, you don't have to go build things. Like every time somebody, like I had to see somebody of mine, he sent my talk that I did at Forward CloudSec in Denver a few weeks ago. And he said he sent it to his GRC guy, and the GRC guy immediately was like, oh no, that's too technical. I can't do that. And I'm not AJ. AJ, he's a different. And I'm like, we got to just lose this mindset. Like, it's not like, and one, you don't have to be me. Like you don't like, you can work with dudes that are really smart. Like these two guys I work with that you can just go talk to and say like, hey, like, I'm thinking about this, and they'll help you accomplish the goal. Like, it's not like, especially if the goal is to reduce the time they got to spend with your dumb auditors. Everybody's going to be happy, but there's such this fear of, I'm not technical enough, I can't do it, I tried before. And it's like, just if you think about the benefits, right? Like, the benefits to me are so huge, like, and they trickle down. Like, I think this GRC engineering thing is a beachhead for a lot of good things in security, and potentially we get to where compliance becomes meaningful again, because it's based on real data, not based off of screenshots. And it's like, hey, auditor, I can give you an IAM role or access to audit manager if you really want it. Like, I can just produce a report, but if you really, auditor's like, I need to see the source data. I want to, even though you're not going to read it or understand what JSON is, but it's like, I want to see the source data. Cool, man. Go. You can click on it. You can click into your little. You do all these click ops. Click into your little folder. I don't recommend it because audit manager's UI is nasty. But if you want to do it, man, click around and enjoy. Like, you can do it, and it's like, these things are possible, and it's possible with tools on these native cloud providers, like right now, or open source tools too. Like, the open source tools out there you can mess with, but there's ways that you can automate a shit ton of these things without a ton of effort. And to me, it's low hanging fruit. And I think it's an opportunity, like, and it's an opportunity to fix things, not just for GRC from a career perspective, get paid a lot of money, but it's an opportunity to, like, improve processes and help everybody do better and do things more securely.
Yeah, if I never have to dump a ticket system again in my life, like, I'll help you write the script, like, no doubt. Because like,
right, and the thing is, like, we've been talking about DevSecOps for so long, right? And shifting security left. So, like, why not GRC go figure out what they did for that, and how can you go get that data? Like, it exists, it's somewhere. They're doing things to make sure that, like, that's the whole aspect of what we're talking about, Jason. Like, of like, people are shipping code all day because we're doing things to make sure that that's possible. So, like, go find that out and then say, hey, engineer, that looks like this piece of the control. Like, could we just get that information so you never have to grab a list? They're like, yes.
Yes, I would gladly do that for you, so I don't have to talk to these people. Yeah, I mean, frankly, like, engineers in general are introverts and don't want to talk to people anyway. So if you can remove one person that they have to talk to a year, they'll sign up for that.
Well, and they love solving problems too.
That too.
Because they're gonna be like, you're gonna be like, hey man, like, I really need to get all these tickets. I want to do it in an automated fashion. Like, 9 out of 10 engineers gonna be like, let me show you how to call this API.
Right.
Now, you do that. That's one where you have to be careful. And AI has made this a lot better, but, like, there are a lot of engineers that would waste a lot of time building an automation to say, 3-hour automation to save them 5 minutes of work. So
that's it. Yeah. It needs to be worth it for sure. Like, I think that's another one. Like, people are like, where do I start? I'm like, find the most painful control. And I just say, like, go to change management, go to SDLC. Like, none of those dudes want to talk to auditors. Like, I was like, I guarantee you, none of the people that go find the control enters for all of CC 8.1, for all the change management controls, none of them want to talk to auditors. And just start the meeting with, my plan to stop you from talking to the auditors. They'll show up.
Find the control owner that only knows that he's the control owner when you send him the Excel spreadsheet on audit day.
Right. The year before the audit. Don't pull up that's the other thing. Don't pull up the week before the audit with your ideas of automating things.
No, you're just too late.
Not happening.
That's too late.
They're gonna say, fuck off, like, I'll just give you your list of tickets. Like, but if you go to them right after the audit and say, hey man, that sucked. I know, I saw your face. Sucked for me, sucked for everybody. I've read this thing, I saw this thing, I think we could probably do it better. Can we talk about that? It's like, hell yeah, please, thank you. If not, I'm gonna, like, never show up at this, like some of these things, like, I think about it all the time, because again, I was fortunate to work with a bunch of really smart engineers and seeing, like, the power of controlling time, right? And, like, not interrupting folks and giving them the freedom to put their heads down and just code, because if you do, like, it's amazing what happens. And, like, if you're a company that builds products, you kind of want those guys heads down coding. Like, you don't want them wasting 20 hours in meetings, collecting evidence, grabbing screenshots, answering stupid questions, because chances are they're not shipping stuff that needs to be shipped. So our roadmap might get pushed, or some new feature that we were thinking about just doesn't get done because the guy that is generally going to go talk to the main person who's the one that's doing a lot of these reviews, who's making sure that shit doesn't break when people are doing things. That guy just didn't get to do it that day. And then when he finally got some time, he's so fucking drained from all of these conversations, context switching. He has Slack messages are blown up, so there's no chance of getting any work done. You almost probably killed the whole day. And it's like, if you can just get rid of that, like, literally one control, just one control, you change your life. And like you were saying earlier, TJ, stand out. You'll significantly stand out. You go into an interview and be like, yeah, eliminated engineers having to spend time in our SOC 2 ops.
Yeah.
How much do you want?
Yeah.
How much
Let's
you
go.
Well, and I think like the timing is what was key there too. Like for like where to start. Like I think I'd fucking fall over if a GRC engineer came to me a month after the SOC 2, like after,
Yep.
and was like, "Hey man, that control you had, man, you were all over the place, clicking everywhere. Is there like, just give me the path, like where you went and what tools they were. Go off and see, is there ways to programmatically pull it? Is there ways to go get it? Start there, and I guarantee you'll come up with one. And once you get one, the rest will just start flowing, and it's invaluable.
That, like what you just said there, TJ, like go and say like, hey, like show me those tools you just used, and then go walk away and go and do research. Don't just immediately say, because you don't know anything. So go research what that thing was that he showed you, and like, what is this Terraform thing? Like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And like, go research it, ask AI some dumb questions about it. Then go back to that dude a couple weeks later and say, I saw they have this API that I think does this, and they're gonna look at you like, oh shit, this dude's trying. Like this dude actually like cares and wants to. Okay, cool. I'll work with him. Like, and it's just like right now we're coming to people, and I told people all the time, like, stop calling people you work with stakeholders. I fucking hate that term. Like they're not stakeholders, they're users. And guess what? These users don't give a fuck about your job. like you guys know this, like you know, when you're building a product, you build these personas. And it's like Sally the scientist, age 35 in Boston. Like, what does she care about? And it's like, build those out for all the people you talk to. Like, or go find out, like, go look at their job descriptions. What are they evaluated on? I guarantee you providing screenshots for SOC 2 is not in there. So you're taking away time for what gets them promoted, like what gets them to do their job. And they only have to do this because they're in some leadership position. And it's just, when you get leadership, you get a bunch of additional duties. But they don't want to do this. Like, and I think that's where GRC professionals got to stop taking themselves seriously. We're like, nobody cares, man. Like, I know you wanted people to care. To get people to care, you might want to actually do more technical work and get rid of the theater. But if you go to them as humans and understand that, like, this dude doesn't want to be in meetings, just start there. He does not want to talk to the auditors. He doesn't want to talk to me. So, like, my goal is that over the next year, we're going to spend time together. But after this, we're done. I won't see you again unless you want to see me. Like, and that to me is the win. Like, it's like, give these people their time back. One, it helps you because they're shipping code for the company you work for. That you want the product to get better, like, so that everybody gets paid. But also, like, now you're smarter, the evidence is better, and the audit goes better. Like, it's like a quadruple word. Like, it's just like, it's a win, but it's just like, it's amazing that one, there's it's a novel concept. Like, people are like, man, this GRC engineering movement. And I'm like, man, like, and they're like, when did you think about this? I was like, I've been talking about this since 2017. Like, the first ever article I wrote at Coalfire was about like automating compliance using like Trusted Advisor, I think, back when Trusted Advisor existed. But it's like, I've been thinking, like, this concept has existed, but now it has a name, which is cool. Like, and I got this GRC engineering job. So like, it's very cool. But like, these aren't novel. Like, this isn't like some like groundbreaking thing. It's just use native services, use the tools that already exist that we shift DevSecOps right, and go get the data. Just get the information. It's there, and use technology to get it. Stop doing it manually.
All right. So before we break for the night, question for you: how's the finger?
I can't. It's stuck here. That's me trying to bend it all the way down. So that's where it's going to be for the rest of my life. Good thing is this pinky's been broke, this pinky's been broke, and this finger's been broke. So it's the fourth one. Basketball, just does it to you. But yeah, but I golfed, and it's great because I'm no longer choking the club with my left hand.
Nice.
I'm holding
loosen the grip. Loosen the grip.
It's so loose, and it literally feels like it's about to fall out of my hand, but it's like I'm puring now because like I literally cannot close my hand around the club, which is what I was.
There you go.
Like, sometimes, especially when you're like, I'm about to smack this, you squeeze it so tight, but it fucks you up. So like,
this is like rookie of the year stuff right here.
Right.
But I couldn't use my old glove anymore. I had to go buy a new glove and buy like a bigger glove, and then I taped the finger together. But man, I was like, hell yeah, this is, benefit right there. Because like, I can't
future PGA Tour because he broke his finger.
Broke his finger. He's on the PGA Tour now.
How did you get down to a single-digit handicap? Broke my finger, man. Got to go break your finger. Break your finger and stop choking the club.
Next up is Happy Gilmore 2. You can get your ligament cut in your back.
Oh man, that was funny. That was super funny. Those dudes were.
What's the name of the book again, so we can get people out there buying it?
GRC Engineering for AWS. There was a bunch of ripoffs the day that it started selling. It was a bestseller, but Amazon just was like, let me go ahead and snatch that up. But those are all gone now, so that's the only one you'll find. But yeah, it's on Amazon. I think it's relatively cheap for a technical book, only $20. Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. I was at DEF CON last week, and a bunch of people had the book. I was signing books, which was a crazy experience. And it seems like there's a lot of GRC professionals that are excited. Like, it's a good moment. People want to level up and get technical skills. So I think the book hopefully gets you at least curious enough to go try some things out and not be scared anymore.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us for today, and it's good having you. Good, obviously, to chat with you again, and
Absolutely.
Look forward to the next time. Yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, hopefully, and I think we got some things planned. We'll play around with a little bit of code again, but until then,